How do you take a really high concept idea and turn it into something with humor and heart? I'm going to be talking about it today. If it fits! Hello everyone, I'm Chris Fitz, and if you haven't already seen the February short film, The Spectacular 8th Birthday of Anthony Tremble, I would suggest that you go watch it. I'm going to be talking a little bit about what went into writing it. If you don't already know, Anthony Tremble is about a 32-year-old man who was born on February 29th. A leap day, and he's celebrating his 8th birthday as if he's an 8-year-old. It's an absurd premise, but what I wanted to do, and what I want to do a lot of the time, is take that absurd premise and infuse it with some kind of realistic emotional stakes. I often find that some of my favorite films are the films that take an idea that is a little bit off-center and use that concept, the high concept, to explore really complex themes. I always think of Charlie Kaufman, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless, everything by Charlie Kaufman, but especially Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, being John Malkovich. I think of The Dark Knight, even Toy Story. I think Pixar is a company on a whole that has really mastered this concept, finding bigger truths in what could be considered offbeat subject matter. I'm working on a feature screenplay right now that is super high concept and will hopefully end up with also a lot of heart, but I thought it would be helpful for me and hopefully for you if I talked a little bit about my process for tackling these big ideas. And so the first thing I do is I don't judge the idea. Sounds simple enough, right? I genuinely believe that there is a way to tell every and any kind of story, no matter how insane the idea might be. I think a lot of people will initially shrug off those kinds of ideas and say, no one's gonna pay to watch that. But it's not your job to tell people what they're gonna watch. It's your job to tell a compelling story, and in a world where it's never been easier to get your story out there, the last thing you should be worrying about is what you think people want to watch, and only worrying about the stories that you want to be telling. Step off my soapbox. And so the next thing I do after not judging myself is I try and find the logic. What is it about this that grounds it in the real world? And I don't necessarily mean our real world. It could be a fantasy world with its own set of logic and rules. I just mean the rationale for getting from point A to point B. I think this is really important, and I think that I'm doing a poor job of explaining it. So let me use some examples from Anthony Tremble. In Anthony Tremble, it was really important for me to figure out why this adult man would be throwing himself a child's birthday party. And I didn't want it to be because he was an idiot or he was insane, because then to me, it would be the film making fun of him instead of the people in the film making fun of him, which is not the kind of art that I want to make. And so from there, I hit on the idea that he was trying to recapture not necessarily his childhood, but the sincerity and the genuine joy he felt as a child. And again, I'm not saying that this is necessarily realistic, that this is something that someone would necessarily do in the real world, but I thought that if I could set the tone right, that I could convince the audience that that was a legitimate reason for this man to be having this party for himself. And it would allow me to explore some themes that I find really interesting, which brings me to the last thing: make sure that the concept informs the theme. So once I knew the motivation of Anthony Tremble, I knew that he could not be the protagonist. And I feel like I made the right decision. I feel like his arc is pretty stagnant. There's a revelation about him. We discover why he's doing this, but as a character, he pretty much ends up the same place that he started. So the question is, who is the protagonist and what is their arc? How will this situation that I'm placing them in change them? And in this case, the situation is the concept. So it needs to play an integral role in the protagonist's transformation. All those hesitations I had about making fun of the character in the writing of the script all went into the main character of Millie. She comes into the situation, she sees how absurd it is, and she immediately starts to roll her eyes and mock it, until she has that quiet moment with Anthony when she realizes that he's just a normal guy trying to have a good time in a cynical world. I thought that she would be a great window into this world for the audience, because I figured the audience would take that journey with her. The audience could experience the absurdity and then the revelation along with the character, and hopefully eventually make them think about the same things that Millie is thinking about at the end. The eye-rolling cynicism of contemporary culture is something that I think about a lot, something I think about for myself a lot, and I thought fit perfectly with a man trying to regain some of that youthful sincerity that he felt as a child. And Millie wouldn't have that growth, or the potential growth. We don't know if she actually changed at the end. If it wasn't for this party, that's it, we did it. shut down the internet. No one has to talk about screenwriting anymore. We solved all the problems. You're welcome. If you've made it to the end of this video and you haven't seen the short yet, what are you doing? Go watch it. If Greg has finished the script for the March short, we should be starting working on that soon. And actually, Greg, have you finished are you done with the script yet? Can I read it? We gotta set up, we gotta film it, we gotta set up, we gotta start doing some pre-production on it. So, email me. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear me talk to Isaac Platiski, the man who played Anthony Tremble in the spectacular 8th birthday of Anthony Tremble. We talked about his own production company, Narrowbridge Films, which has their 4th feature, Yellow Scare, coming out. You can pre-order it now on Amazon. You can links in the places. Go and listen to the People Who Make Stuff podcast, and I will see you next week. What do you think of the new setup?